Recording in progress.
All right, before we bring the jury back, let's get the defendant in. Hold on. Probably would be a good idea.
You ready? You sure what's this?
All right, we have the defendant back. So I've been handed another question from the jury, and this exemplifies the problem that has been created by Mr. Lockert's line of questioning. I'm sorry to ask this, but I'm not quite clear on the questions about the missing shoes and child in pajamas. Were those legitimate claims that the investigators did not follow up, or were they hypotheticals the lawyer made? Which, of course, means that I've now got to bring them out and talk about it again, which is the reason why. And my intent is to explain to them that we had a pretrial hearing on at least one of those situations about the child statement, and that I've ruled that the statement would not be admissible at trial because of the fact that it did not comply, in this court's opinion, with the requirements. There was no allegation it was an excited utterance, which I'm not going to explain to them, but that's the base. There was no claim that it was an excited utterance. It was simply a statement made out of court being sought to be introduced. I know the argument was to prove the bias of the investigation. But the question about whether those were legitimate claims that the investigators did not follow up, or were they hypotheticals that the lawyer made, is more difficult. Do you state have any question or any position? I realize your position is I should instruct the jury to disregard the entire line of questioning. And Mr. Lockhart, do you have anything you want to address on that before I bring the jury out?
I think the court can say that there were two reports, but there's no evidence that the reports are accurate or not.
That is actually the evidence, though, that the reports weren't accurate, which is one of the reasons that Mr. Lockhart wasn't allowed to have these made admissible pre-trial, because it was hearsay within hearsay, and this court can opine from the evidence already in the trial.
Well, let's distinguish, excuse me for interrupting, but let's distinguish between the two reports, because one is just a report of missing boots.
Sure.
That's not necessarily hearsay. The second report is the statement of the child at 4 years of age that now doesn't remember any of that, and the mother was going to be repeating a statement of a 4-year-old child. That was actually, in a sense, double hearsay. So go ahead. I'm sorry, having distinguished between those.
And I should have distinguished, and I'm only referring to this report that was ruled on pretrial, which is the report that originated in Humphreys County, which was the double hearsay report that said that a 5-year-old heard another child say, "I'm 5, no, I'm 15, I'll be back later to play with you," which is already clear from the video and evidence in this trial that Joe Clyde Daniels could have never said that. But on top of that, it's double hearsay and in violation of the court's order, which is why I'm again asking you to instruct the jury that those questions were made in violation of an order, or else the state will be prejudiced.
All right, let's bring the jury back. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You may have a seat. I have been handed a question that one of you asked, and I want to read that question into the record, and then I want to address it. The question is, I'm sorry to ask this, but I'm not quite clear on the questions about the missing shoes and child in pajamas. Were those legitimate claims that the investigators did not follow up, or were they hypotheticals the lawyer made? All right. Those are two different things, and I want to address them separately. The lawyer, Mr. Blockert, asked the investigator or the officer about the report that a child had shoes that were missing off of a porch, and he answered that he thought those were investigated or whatever, and that had they been reported, they would have been investigated or should have been. That's distinguishing from a statement about supposedly a child saying that they saw another child or whatever. That is what we call hearsay. Prior to this trial beginning, there were pretrial motions and hearings that I conducted. I made certain rulings, as I've told you over and again, that I have to make regarding the admissibility of evidence. My rulings are about what I believe is admissible evidence and what is reliable evidence. And I have excluded any evidence of some statement that a child would have made about another child because of the fact that, in my opinion, and the rulings I made on the evidence, was that they were not reliable evidence that should be admitted. We've talked about before hearsay statements where somebody isn't here and so forth that you can ask them to bring in. If that person comes in to testify, that's a different matter. But when being able to have someone come in and repeat a statement that a child made 3 years ago is a little different. I have excluded that, and I made a ruling on that. Mr. Lockert's questions seem to violate, or seem to be, not violate, but they seem to be contrary to what my ruling was. And for that reason, I'm going to instruct you that there is no evidence that will be presented to you unless it changes and the child comes in to testify. But right now, there's no evidence of that statement of that child that's been presented to you. The lawyer's questions are not evidence. So keep that in mind when the lawyers ask the questions. The only significance that the lawyer's questions have is that it gives weight or gives an explanation to the answer that the witness gives, if you understand that. They ask a question, the witness answers, and that Mr. Lockert, in representing his client, was attempting to show that through the officer that the investigation that was so detailed didn't cover this particular issue. And I have ruled that that statement is not admissible about a child, and therefore you are instructed to disregard and not to attach any significance to that statement about a child. The shoes are a different matter. That's not hearsay. And he was asked about it, and he answered it, and you can recall what he said. So I hope that has clarified the situation for him. Mr. Lockert is not in trouble with the court. I'm just simply telling you that the interpretation that I give of my ruling may be different than what he did, but I wanted to make sure that you understand that I'm ordering you not to attach any significance to the idea that some report of a child in pajamas was made, other than the fact that it was made in an effort, a question was asked in an effort to show that the investigation was not as far-reaching as it could have been. All right. Having made that clarification to you and answer to your question, we'll allow Mr. Crouch to, or Mr. Turnbow, whoever it was, to ask Detective McCartney any further questions.
Detective, before we recessed, I believe I had moved in as an exhibit your audio recording of the defendant writing with you in detective level. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And what exhibit is that, Ms. Clerk?
104.
Thank you. And we're now going to play exhibit 104. Pause for 1 second. Your Honor, at this time, I'm going to ask that the bailiff distribute copies of the transcript of this recording for the jury to follow along with. And Your Honor, a copy for the court. And the defense has been provided a copy of the transcript.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Griffin.
This is just a recording, not a video.
That's correct. Detective McCartney, before we get too far into the transcript, you are in a vehicle with Detective Lovell.
Yes, sir.
And who's doing the driving?
Detective Lovell.
And where are you sitting?
I am sitting in the back seat. Joseph Daniels is sitting in the front passenger seat.
Thank you. And just for explanation, does Detective Lovell have Tourette's?
He does.
And will you be able to hear some of his Tourette's in this?
Yes, you will.
And does he explain that to Mr. Daniels?
He does.
All right, thank you. Go ahead.
Just tell me from beginning to end, everything that happened.
All right, so I woke up this morning, about 5:30. I got out of bed. I went back to the house, the clothes. That way they could go to school. So I went into the living room, saw that the coffee table had been moved. And
Where's the house? How did it move? Where's it going?
so where it was, we went to the house earlier, where it was sitting on the couch, it was actually sitting like here's the two doors to the bedroom. Here's the coffee table, a little bit, not exactly in front of the doors, but away from the doors, but facing towards the doors. And then I noticed that the lock wasn't on the door. I went into the bedroom, he wasn't in the bed. So I looked into my aunt's bedroom, she wasn't in there. He wasn't there either. I looked everywhere through the house and couldn't find him. I got Crystal up, my wife. She got her clothes on and we went around and I went up and down this road a little bit, went over to Old Corner Street Road over here, checked there, couldn't find him, and then I called the police, and that's when they came out, and while they were out, I searched this area a little bit more, and still couldn't find him. So what I did, I went all the way down to the end of this road, on Corner Street Road, where it gets Harris Road, and I checked through all the yards through there, and I
Stop anywhere you got one?
I was going really slowly through the area, about this speed actually, my hazard lights on. But I didn't get out, there was a lot of people coming down the road. But I wasn't going to come back through here again and check. I'm getting out there what's out until they said that they needed my ID to issue out the alert.
You remember stopping over to look for him? Yeah. What else you got? Anything?
And that's when I heard, a lot of people coming out and I saw more police officers in the state came in.
Did you go back out for an answer that?
I did not.
The first time you went out before y'all called the police, you and your wife driving around?
It was just me. I was driving around with my Alex in the passenger seat, and we didn't see anything.
What color is the John? The black, she said?
Black with
Skeleton.
skeleton. Yeah.
You know your son does it. Do you think it's possible that him lost that lock?
That's a good question because there's some things that he's been doing recently, like he's been progressing, doing things better.
So it's a really good question. If he did, I know recently he's been getting better at doing things. He's progressing. But he hasn't really. I haven't seen him unlock the door. I have not seen him try, but my wife Crystal has. I went to bed at 10. No, I can recall. I didn't see it here. No. Yeah, I got woke up by that. Yeah. That was about 11:30, so it wasn't too far after I went to bed. And I didn't. The house did. We really don't, scream or holler like that at him. He always does this kind of stuff when my stepmom is gone. So that's when he takes off.
You really close with her?
Yeah.
So is that Mama's wife?
Yes.
Okay, so he's close to both of them?
Yeah.
Where are they at?
Texas. They're all the way back here. Yeah, I told him, told him to get back to bed. He went back to sleep, so, and then after that,
Did your wife like it at home?
she actually got up. She said during the night, we really didn't do much. She said she could go back to sleep like 2 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, so when you woke up at 11:30, she was asleep?
She was asleep, or she was awake and I didn't know it because she was watching TV, so. No, but I did check it before later in the evening. And she said she checked it too, so I don't know. Yeah, we make sure we check that every night before we go to bed. So just worried. Really does the tails off to try to find him.
You say he's done this in the past. What's the farthest he's ever made it?
To the neighbor's house across the street.
Oh, really? So he's never made it before.
Yeah, he's never done this before. I actually went down there too.
We'll check that when we're back. So like when he's at John's house, where would you like to stay at your John's house? I mean, whether it's inside or outside? Where's he like spending most of the property?
We like to do the swing set a lot. He goes up to it. Sometimes he likes to go to the very back of the yard. And that's where I was thinking maybe he may have gone, and that's when he may have gone that direction, potentially, so. I don't know how, but I usually would have heard something because he likes to slam the door. I didn't hear that, so.
Well, it's just odd that, there's no difference you can think of, because it's odd that he would, you know, be that good at getting away. What are you doing? Who's that guy?
I think he's checking the clothes out. That's Donald, right?
Donald Ray.
He's my cousin.
Yeah.
Is that what he's got that on?
It's a shirt or something supposed to be there.
So he's looking too.
Yeah, everything's good.
Check that out.
We'll get it. Very nice.
We're just gonna get it different. Never know.
Take a picture of the clock real quick.
I'm just nervous right now. Doesn't want to go back home.
So, who all was at the house last night? And everybody's there now? You said you didn't want them to scold him or anything? Does anybody get
No,
on him or?
no, he's just so attached to Manny. And got all that.
Never have any problems with anybody, their friends come over, their neighbors come over. The reason I'm asking is, if there's something that you may have forgotten or something that you might want to tell us, we need to know every single thing so we can find your full-frame home. We got to know everything, we can't leave nothing out.
Right, I understand that, yeah. And I know that, I don't know if he has any friends in this area, he's made any friends on the bus, or anything like that, so that part I don't know. The neighbors, he likes to go to the neighbor's yard, if he does, get away, and sometimes the neighbors aren't home, so we have to go over there and search them and we find him. And, Joseph. Well, actually, it's Joe Clyde Daniels III. I named him after my dad, so.
You go by Joe or Joseph?
Joe. There wasn't really anything unusual about, dinner or anything like that. He just did his normal thing. He went to bed, watching hockey, and then, I'm trying to figure out where he could have gone.
It was cold last night. I really don't see him going way too far. You know what I'm saying? I feel like he would stay close. I know he goes to the neighbor's house. I do feel like he's going to have some kind of comfort zone. He's going to stay inside of it.
I don't know. I would think it would have gotten this far.
Some more vehicles over there? More vehicles?
For someone his age, I don't think he would have gone this far, but possibilities Right, I'm trying to think, what does it cost him to do this? I don't know anything that I can tell you except for just what I've told you. I don't know. Because I do everything I can in my power to make sure he's happy.
Well, we know that y'all done all y'all could keep in the house too. That's all he's told me.
Yeah.
Nobody's doubting it. And that way, nobody's doubting that the kids won't be happy.
Oh,
I
really?
think he's good. I don't want to do that. I'm a real life on single body.
Well, he knows how to open the trunk and close it.
What about the trunk of that gray car? Anybody check that?
I don't know. I know.
Can I get it out of there?
believe the car was locked. Was it like a
Maybe we can check it again the second time while you and I are walking up to the house. Maybe back out, maybe that after we check the trunk of the car, we'll check it again.
There's an area that's back where this is dirt road. But on my road, I would go left, through it, or 3rd Street. Through it again, and turn to 3rd Street. You take a left right there, go all the way down to the end of the road, and take a left, that road, and then eventually you went to that dirt road.
You been over there before?
He is not actually.
Yeah, I still see him getting this far out. Somebody seen the top chick on it. I know there's some bad people out there, but 90% of the people on the dinner have been nice, decent people. They saw a car go off and they just stopped.
Yeah, that was well, he has a back there, and he's also a very curious child as well. So that's one thing that, I wonder about. I think so.
Wow.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yes. No socks. They're supposed to have his tonsils taken out because they were enlarged and his patient was shrinking. They were also enlarged as well.
two things always just kept me up nights. One off on my day was hungry because when the little thing was like that. And it's 20 years. The issue was
Yeah, it's a little past my house. You go into Church Street there, like after my house.
think that's gonna be anything, Jeff? That's how our number one priority is 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's my number one goal.
All right.
You know, sometimes we gotta start looking inside the family. You know that, right?
Yeah.
That happens. And I hate to have to even think that way right now, and I don't want to. But it's just something that we have to do sometimes because we don't know.
Right. Nothing happened that I know of. Once we got nobody did anything to none of those things normal.
Where did you sleep at?
And Danny's bed with the house. They sleep with each other.
The Alex, the only person there with him?
Yeah, I was out with the whole house. I know when I woke up in the middle of the night that he had beat on the floor, but I didn't spank him, but I was screaming out.
Did anybody else get up when that happened?
Back to bed.
These cars are going down.
It's right there on the line.
Just through there. Is there another one? Yes, another one.
Yeah, I'll show you.
All the shoes are in the house, so he wouldn't have had a pair of shoes on. There is no secret clubhouse that the brother knows of. Joe likes big trucks. But as far as animals or anything, no, not really. Yeah, he does like big trucks. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, we're done.
Really?
Well, we already looked it up. Well, it's like people that don't live in I'm not exactly sure. He's showing us how to get there, but it's our road. We're back here.
Yeah, there's another road right here.
Also, let me the first service. He left a few days ago, and I said the rest of the person closest to
Sorry, brother. Thank you. I mean, it goes by there. I'm not sure what else is back here. Further down. I want to know this Here. All right. You good?
Not that far.
You're back here today.
Yeah, we can look at that. You come back here to cool off, like what? It's the,
Sometimes for life, the audience, a lot of this she also comes back to the So,
y'all know what we argue about. I know what me and my wife argue about. What do y'all know what we argue about? I do it every time. What? Hey, Mom.
a couple of weeks ago, I was there.
So let's get water out of there. Water. How you doing?
Mr. Man?
Doing all right. Let's take a picture. We're detectives from the sheriff's office.
Yeah, I heard about the kid missing.
Did you see the picture?
Take a picture of the boy.
I haven't, but I've been listening to make sure I didn't hear nobody screaming or hollering.
Awesome.
I've been here since about 8 this morning.
Did anybody come up through here?
If I see him, I definitely let y'all know.
You see anybody come there this morning or last night? Or when's the last time you see her?
I've been here to one spot there since about 8. There's been people in and out for the past probably every 15, 20 minutes. There's been a vehicle go by.
What is this, right?
I'm not even sure.
This one is ago. How far into this ago? We in Hickman County right now?
I'm not even sure. I'm not from around here. I'm on my way from college. I'm with the logging crew.
Yeah, I used to play us in football high school. I was from Forest.
Yeah.
I used to work us every year.
They're a pretty good football team. When they want to be sometimes.
Cornfields what they are. It's all right though. All right, sir. We appreciate it, man.
Well, if I definitely see something or hear something, I'll definitely will go out there.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, ain't no problem. I understand.
You be safe out there.
You too, buddy.
I sure hate to get out there. guy. We're missing something. There's a big piece to it. Somebody has to know something. Somebody's got to know something. They didn't just mention it.
Judge, I think we're going to have to start over.
No, we're not.
Judge, for some reason we have a short or something in the wiring. That's why it's not the audio, it's the wiring. So we're going to... yeah. I know where we are on the transcript.
We're on, what, page 37 of 40, 41, is that roughly?
We are at an old structure around here. It went out, came back on, and went out. While Mr. Etheridge is doing that,
Go ahead. We're about 4 pages in the transcript away from the end, if I'm understanding it correctly. So you have questions for Detective McCartney? Go ahead.
Detective, we're going to finish listening to the conclusion of the audio in just a few minutes, but let me direct your attention back to the beginning of the interview, if I could, and specifically on page 2. Did the defendant tell you what time that he got up that morning?
He did. He said that he woke up at 5:30 that morning.
Okay. And what did he say when he walked into the living room that he observed?
He said, so I went into the living room and saw that the coffee table had been moved.
Okay. And where had it been moved to?
He said where it was sitting in front of the couch, it was actually sitting like, here's the 2 doors to the bedroom and here's the coffee table, not exactly in front of the doors, but away from the doors, but basically towards the doors.
And is he referring to the 2 double doors?
At the master bedroom.
And we've already seen several photos that there are actually double doors going into the master bedroom?
Yes.
Okay. Did he say anything about the lock?
Said he noticed the lock wasn't on the door.
Okay. And also on page 3, what did he say when he looked in his Aunt Joyce's bedroom?
So I looked into my aunt's bedroom. She wasn't in there. He wasn't in there either. I looked everywhere through the house.
Okay, so is he saying what? He's saying he looked in his aunt's bedroom and Aunt Joyce wasn't there?
That's what he said, yes.
Okay. Let me take your attention to page 5. What did he tell you as to his observations of Joe Clyde unlocking a door?
I asked him if he thought it was possible that Joe Clyde could unlock the lock, and he said, that's a good question, because there's some things that he's been doing recently, like he's been progressing and doing things better, so it's a really good question if he did or not. I know recently he's been getting better at doing things, he's progressing, but he hasn't really. I haven't seen him unlock the door.
Okay. And again, he tells you what time he went to bed?
10 o'clock.
And did he say what Alex did or what Alex said?
I told him that Alex had said Joe peed in the floor. He said, yeah, I got woke up by that.
And why did you tell him that?
Because Alex had told me that earlier that morning at the house.
Okay. And until that point, when you bring it up, had the defendant relayed to you that Alex had peed in the floor?
No.
All right. Now, if I could take you to page 9. What did the defendant tell you about the locks being checked?
He stated that she had checked the lock, talking about Crystal. I asked, is that something y'all check every single night? He said, yeah, we make sure and check that every single night before we go to bed. So I'm worried, really. I know you guys are just searching your tails off trying to find him.
Okay. And what's he tell you on line 22?
On line 22, he asks, do you guys have any kind of leads or anything?
All right. Then I'll take your attention to page 10, line 12.
He stated, sometimes he likes to go to the very back of the yard. And that's where I was thinking he may have gone, and that's why he may have gone that direction, potentially. So I don't know. But I usually would have heard something because he likes to slam the door, and I didn't hear that.
He told you that he likes to slam the door?
Yes, sir.
And he didn't hear a door slam?
Yes, right.
So, Detective, on April the 4th, we hear in this interview, Detective Lovell mentions that it was cold the night before. What was the weather the night before, April 3rd into the 4th?
The night before, on the 3rd, there were bad thunderstorms and heavy rain, and the temperature was pretty cool.
Okay. And if I could take you to page 15. Line 19. What does the defendant tell you?
I don't know anything other to tell you except for just what I've told you, because I don't know. Because I do everything I can in my power to make sure he's happy.
Had the defendant provided any reason that Joe Clyde wouldn't be happy?
He had not.
Okay. And page 16. Do you ask him about the trunk?
I do.
And what did he say?
Sometimes, he knows how to open the trunk and close it. So that's, that was just a hunch of mine, but I didn't go anywhere, so.
Okay. So the defendant says it was a hunch, is that correct?
Yes.
But he didn't go anywhere.
Right.
Okay. And let me take you to page 19. What does the defendant answer in response to if he's wearing socks or no socks?
He says no shoes, no socks.
Was the defendant asleep when he claims the child escaped?
Yes.
How would he know if he was wearing shoes or socks?
I don't know.
Okay. Now I'll take you to page 21. What does he tell you in Detective Lovell after Detective Lovell says he gets worried when babies might be hungry or cold? I'll take you to line 9.
Line 9.
Yes.
Yeah, he says, that's my fear too. My biggest fear was him trying to escape. That was my biggest fear because he was known to do that.
He says he was known to do that?
Yes.
Now, did he tell you when he had first escaped ever?
He said the first time that Joe Clyde had ever escaped, he was about 1 year old.
1 year old? Okay.
Yes.
And now I'll take you to page 22. Did he tell you what, did the defendant tell you what Joe Clyde had eaten for dinner the night before? On page line 14?
He says he ate pizza that we had cooked, and he had ate some cake too.
All right. And in response to what would make Joe Clyde Daniels scared, what did the defendant say on line 21?
He said, unless he's scared, which I've never seen anything make him scared.
Thank you. And page 23. What did, again, referring to Joe Clyde escaping, what did the defendant say starting with line 2?
He said, not this long. The first time he did this, he was a baby, just 1 year old, and he went out the door, snuck out the door, and ended up going into a ditch. So it's something about him that he just wants to escape. I don't know why.
All right. And line 23, I'm sorry, page 23, line 11, what does the defendant tell you?
Besides the house, I think he would not go to the truck stop unless inaudible. I don't know if he has any friends around or any close neighbors. He would go to their places.
Okay. The defendant says he wouldn't go to the truck stop unless, and then it's inaudible.
Yes.
Did the defendant tell you in this car ride that he had already driven to the truck stop that morning?
I can't remember if he actually said he went. I don't think he did. He told me he drove Garner's Creek to the end of Garner's Creek where it meets Harris Road.
Yeah. But he actually did drive to the truck stop.
He did.
But he says, I think he wouldn't go to the truck stop.
Right.
Do you know why the defendant drove to the truck stop if he thinks his son would not go to the truck stop?
I don't know.
Did he offer an explanation?
He did not.
Now let me take you to page 24. On line 13, what do you tell the defendant?
24, line 13.
Yes, ma'am.
Just so you know, our number one priority is finding your son.
And on line 16?
Okay, so that's my number one goal.
Well, was that your number one goal at that time?
Yes.
And were you looking for a dead child or a missing alive 5-year-old?
I was looking for a missing alive child in hopes that we could find him alive. And I knew we had a small window of time to do that.
Okay. Did you have some suspicions that you may not be getting the full story?
I was suspicious at this time.
Okay. Take you to page 26. What does the defendant say after he tells you that he got woke up on line 1?
I know when I got woke up in the middle of the night that he had peed on the floor, but I didn't spank him, scream at him, or anything. I just went back to bed.
Okay. Then let me take you to page 29. Line 1, he says, yeah, I went down this way, but I didn't go further. What does that mean? Where were you at this point?
So at this point, we're on McElhiney Road. And I can tell that because this is right before we talk to the loggers. Hold on a second. No, at this point, we're on Garner's Creek Road still. Heading towards Harris Road.
Okay. And in a moment, when Mr. Etheridge gets his computer back up, we're going to look at a map.
Yeah.
Let me take you to page 30 now. Line 9.
Okay.
Does the defendant describe how Joe Clyde can or cannot talk?
He says he can say a few words here and there, but he can't fully talk. He can say yes, no, mom, dad.
Okay. And then I'll take you to page 31. What does Detective Lovell ask the defendant on line 4?
Is there a specific location we're going to now? on here? Like, is there another dirt road, or is it?
And what was his answer?
He said, there is a dirt road out here, and then Detective Lovell said, would he be curious to look at anything? And Mr. Daniels said, there's a chance that he would be curious. I don't remember taking him out this far.
Okay, so it'll help when we have the map on the screen, if Mr. Etheridge can pull that up. But where, are you all en route to this road he's describing at this point?
Yes, he had told us a spot that we could check.
All right, and he tells you the spot earlier in the trip, is that right?
Yes.
So let me take you back to page 17. On line 13, what do you ask the defendant?
Can you think of a different direction we should be driving?
And what does the defendant say?
That there's an area that's back where there's a dirt road on my road. I would go left or go on through it, or 3rd Street. I think it's where Pruitt ends and then turns to 3rd Street. And if you take a left there and go all the way down to the end of the road, and then take a left on that road, and eventually you'll end up on a dirt road.
Okay, Detective, you've been riding with the defendant.
Yes.
And he's describing how to get to this dirt road. He says if you go down Garner's Creek and you take a left on 3rd Street, where Pruitt turns into 3rd, is that correct?
Yes.
So here we have Garner's Creek, 1112, where the defendant resides.
Yes.
And here is where Pruitt turns into 3rd, is that correct?
Yes.
And he says you drive down 3rd Street,
Yes.
you take a left.
Yes, at the end of that, take a left.
Old Garner's Creek or McElhaney?
McElhaney.
And is this McElhaney Road?
It is.
And where does McElhaney Road go?
Eventually it leads into either Humphreys or Hickman County.
And I'm going to trace it. Tell me if I'm off.
That's the correct route.
Okay, so if we go back to page 30 or 31, is this where you all are now driving on McElhaney Road?
Yes, it is. We're on that road at that point.
So, and before we go away from this screen, have you already driven south on Garner's Creek?
Yes, sir.
Do you know how far south on Garner's Creek you went before you all turned around?
We drove at least to where Garner's Creek Road meets Harris Road, and that's where we turned around.
And do you know approximately how far it is from his house to where Garner's Creek runs into Harris?
I think it's approximately 7 miles.
So you drove about 7 miles south towards Harris Road.
Yes.
Then you drove north and came back and followed the path that he describes on page 17.
Yes.
Which takes you out from McElhaney and where it turns into a dirt road in Hickman County.
Yes.
Now, on page 17, at the bottom, what does Detective Lovell say starting with line 23?
We'll go there when we go back, and we'll go check that out. Has he gone there before?
And what does the defendant say?
I have. He has not, actually.
Okay, so he says, I've been there, but Joe Clyde has not.
Yeah.
Now let's go back to page 31. And on line 11, what does the defendant, well, line 9, you ask, would he be curious to look at anything? And what does the defendant say, starting with line 11?
There's a chance that he could be curious. I don't remember taking him out this far.
And what did you gather when he said that? That he had taken him out there, just not as far as you were?
Yes.
Okay. And are we good with audio at this point?
structure or anything like think of a playhouse?
And we are on the bottom of page 37, line 21.
Yes.
Buildings, one of the neighbor were small house, which actually is hard.
Which one's that? There's a lake, there's a barn from the house, that's next to the house. Behind it, it's definitely longer. That's what I'm trying to get on. It was longer. Right across the street, there's a house that's 4,200 square feet. And there's a wood shed behind it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Didn't say anything. Okay, okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, we appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll figure out here. First.
life in there?
First arson.
Bring it back. You can wait till 4:30 and go back out. Thank you. Waving from the troopers, waving us up there from the house. I'll back at you.
Dad wandered off.
So they won't fucking hit my ass. Y'all going by. Well, I mean, Chuck said we can talk to County Money here, first thing that's going out. Somebody else. Yes, sir.
This guy saw him at 1 o'clock in the morning standing up here by the road.
Are you serious?
Yes. I said, you didn't think anything about that? No.
All right, let me pull over and talk to his ass in real quick. Thank you.
Okay, Detective, the audio in at that point,
Yes, sir.
and remove a copy of the transcript is the next exhibit.
105.
Aside from Detective Lovell's curse words, what was he referring to?
When we pulled back up to the house,
Yes.
Um,
He said somebody was waving at you?
yes, there was a THP trooper there that had a civilian there with him in his own vehicle, and he had stated that he saw someone on the side of the road the previous night, in the middle of the night.
Okay. And did you identify who the civilian was?
That was Daniel Mccormick.
Okay. And I'm not going to ask you what he said because he's one of our witnesses. We'll get to him later.
Yes, sir.
Did you conduct an interview with Daniel McCormick?
I briefly spoke with him.
Okay. How long was your interaction with Mr. McCormick?
Not very long, probably a couple of minutes.
Okay. And before that came up, you had, on page 41, you made a statement, Dad wandered off. Did the defendant get out of the truck at that point?
He did,
Where did he go?
up towards the residence.
Okay, so were y'all back at the command center or at the residence?
We were at the residence, right in front of it on Garner's Creek Road. We had to park on Garner's Creek Road.
Okay, thank you. Judge, at what point would you like me to stop? An hour ago?
How much further do you have?
Quite a bit.
Quite a bit. Well, before you conclude today, well, if this is the appropriate stopping point, here's what we've got. We've got the jury that needs to get settled into their weekend location, and we need to get them fed. So all the lawyers had talked, and we had agreed that stopping at 5 o'clock today would be probably appropriate. I've spoken with the jury, and they're agreeable to being here at 8 o'clock in the morning and starting up at 8. And we'll go from 8 to 12 tomorrow morning, and then we'll adjourn until Monday morning, and then we'll see where we are. We do have one matter I need to take up after the jury has exited the room, though. So if we will be in adjournment, we'll let you go ahead and go to your jury room, and then let me take this other matter up, and then we'll come back. You won't be coming back. We'll send you on to your location, okay? And Detective McCartney, you can stay where you are.
Yes, sir.
You can. Okay, I've been handed a jury question, and let's just go ahead and deal with it so that tomorrow morning we can address it. The question from the juror is, the transcript discusses the coffee table being near the double doors. They even cite page 2, lines 19 through 25. Does the detective know if the Joseph indicated the lock was used on those double doors or the back door? Page 3, lines 1 through 2. The photo showed hasps on both. It's not clear from the transcript. So the question is whether the padlock was used on the back door or on the double doors. I think there was some discussion about both of those. So I think that's a legitimate question to clarify. I don't mind if the state, since you're still asking questions of this witness, that tomorrow morning you address that issue. But any objection to the jurors' questions?
None, Your Honor.
All right. Then tomorrow morning we'll let the state address that in their direct questioning. Then in view of that, is there anything we need to address before we adjourn?
Judge, I'm obviously not an audio person over here, but the problem with the audio and any video we play is we think the splitter. So that's going to continue to happen whether the defense is using it or we. County operations come and take a look at it.
Who can we call?
Rick with audio sound is who we called last time. I'll check, see if he can come by first.
See if he can be by here first thing in the morning. We're going to start at 8 o'clock, so he needs to be here at 7 if he can.
I mean, with a
We just
splitter.
need to make sure that he knows what the problem is so he can address it.
Okay.
Mr. Etheridge, will you stay and let me get Rick on the phone and you talk to him?
All right, anything else? All right, we will see you all then at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. We stand adjourned.
Recording stopped.
All rise. Court is in recess till 8 in the morning.
It's like 10 o'clock.
Rick, please answer the phone.
Between now and 8 o'clock tomorrow morning?
I hope you guys work on something.